Good afternoon, everybody. This is a follow-up call with questions and answered on the VAT recovery specialist call we had a little bit earlier today. We did have a lot of questions and answers in that call, but it wasn't recorded. So we are now going to have a question and answer session where Philippa is going to ask questions, James is going to answer, and then when they finish, I may have a question or two. Have fun. Philippa, you can start.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stefan. Thanks, Stefan. That was a
Stefan.
good call. Very, very good call. So James, I just have a few questions with regards to the VAT recovery and what we've just heard in our last meeting. So what industries do you think would mainly benefit from this VAT recovery?
All industries would benefit. There's no business that would be exempt from taking a look at doing an audit. What we have found is big companies have produced small results and small companies have produced big results. So in terms of us going into a business, there's no one specific industry that produces better results, if you could call it that, in terms of being able to find monies that haven't been claimed.
Okay, awesome. And the benefits of a company using the VAT recovery services?
So the most important one is obviously cash flow. So finding money that hasn't been claimed. This is all historical VAT. So we go back 5 years into your paperwork and take a look at obviously monies that have not been claimed. But this is money that has not been accounted for, or certainly money that has been, well, people are obviously hoping that that money will be coming in. So this is something where we can go back and find money that will assist with cash flow. That's the biggest one for an organization. Cash flow is king. Besides, obviously, the profitability of the business, and we're adding money back into the liquidity of the business.
Okay.
That's definitely the biggest advantage, is obviously putting money where it counts.
Yeah. And what is the time frame that you actually do the assessment?
Depends on the size of the organization. So from the initial meeting, there's obviously be a contract that would need to be agreed upon. But bigger organizations can take several months. Smaller organizations can be a couple of days. It really does depend on the number of transactions that an organization does as well. I mean, we can take a look at big organizations working on several spreadsheets, and each spreadsheet being a couple million line items. So these do take a long time to assess. The smaller organizations doing a lot less, obviously, could be pretty quick.
Okay. Well, then that leads me to my next question. So what is the minimum turnover that a company that is looking for these services, what is the minimum turnover?
We would take a look at businesses doing about R1 million a month. That's about the size. They would be big enough then to be able to come in. Smaller businesses, unfortunately, we can go scratching around. It becomes a little bit more finicky, but on the big organizations at R1 million a month, it puts us at give or take about 12 million rand a year. Over a 5-year period, it's a 60 million rand audit. So if we really want to look at it, somewhere between the 50 and 60 million rand mark over a 5-year period.
Okay, and then that's great. So from a 5-year period, is that the period that is assessed?
That's as far back as we can go, is 5 years, and that's as far back as we can make amendments.
Okay.
Legally,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. And from a company's involvement, what is their involvement? You know, from the labor, what is required from their side?
There's actually very little. The most important part that we require is the general ledger. This is obviously every single transaction that a business does. So we're not interested in the profitability. We're not interested in turnover figures. We're not interested in any of that. It's just the general ledger in terms of VAT in and VAT out transactions. So the hardest part that we take a look at with the company is to get the buy-in from the board of directors down to accountants level, and obviously the people who capture the information. There's often a little bit of pushback in terms of what the data capturers do, because they do feel that their jobs may be on the line. So from a company's perspective, we would need director level instructions to say, please give us a bit of assistance. And obviously, the more information we have, the better results we get.
Okay, but so what I'm hearing there is just the information that you require is literally
The information is the general ledger.
Is the general ledger. You don't actually need anybody's involvement or any time from their staff.
There would be a little bit in terms of meetings. So this may be external suppliers, like an external accounting firm, but there would be very few meetings required. The big one would be once the information has been assessed and the information that is required is extrapolated from that data, is to then sit down and we would submit all of the documentation through to director level, whoever may be in charge, and go, do you agree with the transactions that we have done? Are there any things that you would like to exclude out of the data and the information that we have found? And then from that point, then it goes to submission. So there's very little in terms of time, labor, resources, and everything else. But this is an exercise that is beneficial to an organization. So if we do require some information, instead of taking months and months and months, it is something that does definitely help, where we have an engaged client in what we're taking a look to achieve.
Okay, well, there's always money to be found.
That's exactly it. Yes. Yeah. There are very few companies that we have come across where there has not been money to be found.
Okay, and some of the hurdles that you think you might experience going into organizations?
The biggest one is people, and that is the hardest part, as I said earlier, in terms of people protecting their jobs and thinking that, no, and this is not something, or you're definitely not going to find something because I do my job properly. And there are times where the laws change, and it doesn't happen very often, but people continue. And certainly if they start making a mistake and they continue to make that mistake, they do try to protect the work that they have done. So that's normally the biggest hurdle that we have. And then board of directors, especially when it's run by accountants. There have been numerous occasions where we've gone in and found quite large sums of money. But once again, that comes down to the person who's capturing it. It doesn't sit at director level. That's normally where the biggest mistakes happen, is in terms of the data capturing. And you are relying on a very important part or an accounting function of a business being handled normally by one of the lower kind of staff members in terms of an organization. So yeah, that's our biggest hurdle.
Okay, and you also kind of answered my next question, which was what are you finding on most of the VAT submission errors? And it's really what you mentioned there was the data capturers.
That is correct. Yeah,
data capturing perspective. That's where they're finding a lot of the VAT errors is purely from data capturing.
That's correct. Yeah. So what you'd also find as well is the types of businesses that run multiple sites. That's where a lot of the errors come in, and especially in terms of quick service type businesses where people are in a time crunch. Once again, it comes down to the data capturing errors. But this is where people are under pressure to produce. And instead of following the chain of command or following a process where VAT vendors are used, a lot of companies are forced to use non-VATable type vendors, and especially when you have lots of those thrown in the mix, and that's where the data capturing issues start to come in. It does get a little bit confusing for the person who's putting that together.
Okay, and do you find that the areas that you operate in, are they
geographical areas? Everything from America to we have an office in the UK. The South African office is based in Hyde Park. Work has been done in Australia, so there's no geographical area that is unique to what we do.
Okay, and you're finding these errors or these submission errors, the data captures, is it Is it global? Is it a global thing or?
It is a global thing, yes. So this is not a South Africa problem. This is a global issue.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. And then just lastly, well, what is your fee?
Okay, we charge 50% of what we find. So this is, like I said, this is all historical data that we go through. This is not money that you are or have budgeted on. There's an enormous amount of work that happens behind the scenes. So and that's how we have come to the figures that we have. Yeah, that's what we charge.
Okay, wonderful.
And yeah, that's really kind of that's VAT recovery in a nutshell. Each business is unique, so we would need to take a look, and it would be an interesting conversation to have on a one-on-one basis. It's not really something that we can do as a global scale across numerous people in one call. So we would love to have the opportunity to sit on a one-on-one basis, depending obviously where you are around the world. It may be a Zoom call or it may be over a cup of coffee. We would love to. We'd love to have that engagement.
Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thanks, James. That's really very
Thank you.
informative.
Great.
Stefan, do you have any final questions or final comments?
No, I'm fine. That was very thorough. James, anything else you want to add?
I'm good, Stefan. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your time. I'll post this video as well. Philippa asked that I also add your email address for inquiries. Are you fine with that?
Please. I am fine with that. No problem whatsoever.
Perfect. Recording will be up in a few minutes, and then it can be found in the Telegram group under recordings. And then I'll also send it to you so that you can distribute to your people. Have
Excellent.
a good afternoon.
Thank you. And you
Wonderful.
too, Stefan. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Philippa.
so much. Thanks, James. Thank you, Stefan.
Great. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.